You know, that's like just your opinion, man.
So hello and welcome to the Audio Opinion Show, where audio people gather to talk about their opinion about things, because for some reason I thought that would be something that people would want to watch and participate in. I still don't know exactly why I thought that was a good idea. But anyway, I'm joined by new friends, old friends, middle-aged friends, friends who delint microphones, whatever that means. And it's a beautiful Thursday. And without further ado, I think we're going to launch directly into a little thing we like to call the polls. And so the very first question in the poll is, of course, the most important question. And the most important question for the night is, launching that poll, what character in TPB, if you don't know what TPB means, then you need to watch previous episodes. In TPB, does Brian most resemble? Multiple choices are allowed. So first of all, an ROUS, I don't think they exist. Second, the albino man. Third, the shrieking eels. 4, the boo lady. And 5, Wallace Shawn. So again, from the top we have, does Brian resemble an ROUS, the albino man, the shrieking eels, the boo lady, or Wallace Shawn? As usual, I don't get a vote. It is multiple choice, which means that there could be like 47 votes in here. Y'all are disappointing me a little bit. Anyway, I'm going to end that poll, I'll share the results, and apparently the character, and at this point, Wallace Shawn is a character. Let's face it, he is the character. He is not just the actor, he's the character. Wallace Shawn is the character in The Princess Bride that I resemble the most. I'm okay with that. I find that to be perfectly acceptable, and I'm kind of pleased, kind of happy.
With the runner-up of the albino man, I want to point out.
I didn't need that. That I didn't need. I would have been okay with rodents of unusual size. The boo lady, I love the boo lady. I've got like some of the hair of the boo lady. Like that would have been fine.
That's
I like the shrieking eels. Nice.
It's just the pasty doing you in.
But it's although I will say, like, his opening line in the movie where it's like, it starts with the really light voice and then coughs a couple times and his voice clears up. That's me every morning of my life. So there is some resemblance. All right, let's get to what it is we're actually going to talk about. What's our topic for the day? And our topic for the day, let's launch, is number 1. What do you think the next big thing, quote unquote, is in audio? What's the next big thing? We've talked about that a little bit, but I'd love to talk about it some more. Secondly, what do you think is talked about too much in audio? Right now, I think it's intercom. Number 3, and this is a question that I've never heard anyone talk about, so I just thought I would put this out there. Mac or PC? I know, new idea. Something no one's ever mentioned before, but I just thought it might be an interesting conversation. Mac or PC, and no, you can't say it depends. You have to pick one. And number 4, strictly for the fun of it, what piece of audio gear do you wish you owned? Just for the fun of it, what piece of gear do you wish you owned? I will give a few more seconds for voting. Vote early, vote often.
For a second, so I wasn't able. I don't see the thing there to vote, but I'm at work, so I'm just going to be kind of watching in the background here.
All good. Well, if it comes down to a tie, then you can be the tiebreaker. All right. I think we have plenty of votes. We're going to end the poll, and this is where I get to prove that I really do just let you guys guide what it is we're going to talk about, because the results are Mac or PC, and you can't say it depends. I put that answer in as a joke, but apparently you guys thought that we should spend 45 freaking minutes talking about Mac or PC. So we're stuck with it. And now that's what we're going to do is 45 minutes of Mac or PC. Joe Foley, who almost certainly voted for this because it's just the way that he is, you can start the discussion, the age-old discussion, Mac or PC, what shall it be?
I want to point out that a Mac is a PC.
No.
Oh,
No.
low shots.
Out.
Are you
Out.
saying that a Mac is not a personal computer? Some sort of business-only computer?
It's dodging the question. We're stuck with this question now. Dodging the question is not allowed. Go ahead, Pete.
Years ago, Mac and or the PC company announced they were going to make a compatible cross-culture computer. And I think for a while it was called the Power PC, but it never quite got to be a Mac, and it never quite got to be a very good a Windows machine. And I thought, great, everything is going to be perfect. Now we can have the best of both worlds. Well, it never happened. And I am forced to use PC software because my intercom programming is often in PC language, and my RF coordination is in PC language. So I use Parallels, which makes PC software virtually the same as Mac software. I don't even know there's a PC inside my computer. It just runs as if it's a Mac, and it's been absolutely terrific. So it depends.
Yeah, unfortunately, with the change of processor now to the M1, that
Well,
doesn't
the
actually
M1
work anymore.
the M1 is getting more universal at all. I mean, for a while they had a stupid little program you had to put in to make your software work. Now Dante works on the M1 as of 2 days ago.
Yep.
Thank you, Jesus.
And Parallels is promising to work on the M1 soon.
Yeah, unfortunately, Parallels will work, but you have to have a copy of Windows to install.
Which is only $25.
No, because it has to be Windows for ARM. Windows for Intel chips doesn't run on Parallels on a Mac.
How much is that?
It's probably the same as every other copy of Windows, but it's unobtainium.
They don't have it yet.
I think they developed it a few years ago, but there isn't any you can go buy.
No, well, and last I heard, all of the copies of Windows for ARM were stuck on a ship somewhere. They're not able to dock it into. This is why, it's a chip shortage. That's your problem.
Are they not able to dock it because they don't have the appropriate USB-C to other dongle?
Right, it's the Thunderbolt 2 to Thunderbolt 4 adapter.
I will say I welcome spending an hour ranting about computers. This I could get behind. Actually discussing Mac versus PC is whatever, but I can totally get behind just ranting about computer stupidity. Anybody else want to weigh in on the immortal question, Mac versus Windows?
What about the upgrade to 11 now, since I only have a couple minutes to speak? So now that everybody's being pushed to 11, what's happening with that? Does that run on Parallels?
Well,
no one's upgrading.
And so on top of that,
well, some people are being forced to. Like this morning, I was up at the bar up the street from me working on the sign that they have outside, and I went to go install the sign software on our computer, and she said, well, something did an update on my computer, and my desktop's all different. And I looked at it and I went, you're on Windows 11. And of course, the sign software didn't work on Windows 11. It works on Windows 10 just fine. Yeah. So I called the sign company and they went, okay, well, we need to look into that.
So Audnate also announced compatibility for DVS on Windows 11 2 days ago as well.
Right.
So they're a little faster on Windows 11, it seems, than the M1 chip. But my mother's new computer has Windows 11 on it, and she was screaming bloody murder about how she couldn't make it work the way she wanted to work. And so I had to go sit there and hack away at it. And it was very frustrating because even things,
it's very frustrating.
well, even things like the start menu are no longer down in the corner where they've always been.
Right.
Exactly.
I mean, I can make some arguments though. We did the same thing when we went from basically Windows 2000 era to and really more XP to Vista. You remember how different Vista was, and I remember cursing Vista vehemently because they moved everything.
Yeah.
So Dan, and Mike, I'll get right. Dan, so the essence of what you're saying is, well, but it was stupid once before, so it's okay that it's stupid now.
More, we should be used to the fact that these
that it's
computer
stupid.
companies do stupid things.
Yeah, Mike,
It's
I think
always, and it's not just Microsoft and Apple that do stupid things. The console manufacturers do the stupid things too.
Oh
You know,
no, we
they just go and
we
move
don't talk about audio consoles here. This is strictly Mac versus PC land.
They just go and
No.
move shit.
No. Don't be changing the topics. Mike, what were you saying?
I was just commiserating about Vista, which I thought was a beta out in the public. That's all that was. So, but yeah, the Windows update thing, you cannot delay it for much. I mean, you can't stop it. You can delay it for a little bit, but yeah, it's crazy.
I stopped it because I didn't upgrade the DRM thing, whatever that. There's this one piece of software that has to be installed before it'll do your update. Or no, it's something you have to change BIOS. And I haven't figured out how to do it. So my PC is not going to Windows 11 until I decide to.
Yeah, mine is not going to Windows 11 either. One of the big issues with Windows 11 is they dumbed down a bunch of the menus. So your right-click context menu now has more pages, more folders you got to go through just to get to pretty standard, operations. The issue though is if you only want to own one laptop as an audio guy, you're pretty much going to be forced into Windows. If you use BSS or any Harman products and use Audio Architect, it only runs on Windows, and so does several manufacturers' offline software for desks. Only runs on Windows.
Lots of stuff does, except until the M1. You can just have Windows on your Mac and just still need one computer. You run both operating systems.
Yeah.
I think to say was that you need a Mac to be able to run both worlds, because you can't run Mac software on a PC, but you can run PC software on a Mac. So as far as the actual computer, you need to have a Mac to be.
Is the stuff that runs on a Mac that only?
Yeah,
I've not come
QLab.
across that.
QLab.
There is
I don't use
virtual
QLab. I use
machine, but
multi.
there's an application that on the whole, like, you can't run Mac on PC. You can. It's something called virtual machine. Now, obviously, it's not the same one-to-one processing, but it can be done with some, as long as you're not using a processor-heavy application. Like if you have like something that uses the power of, like, I don't know, an Excel spreadsheet or like a text editor, something in that power range, you can use virtual machine to do it. Now, that being said, I tried to once do virtual machine. It's not the most complicated thing, but it's definitely not a one-click deal.
Yeah, but so you have choices. You can run Parallels or you can run VMware. Whereas on a PC, you got to run some janky Linux software. And like you say, you got to know your PC backwards and forwards so that you can make that Mac software work. So if the question is, what do you need to buy? You probably need to be in the iWorld.
Right. And plus with besides Parallels and VMware, you can just boot straight into Windows with Boot Camp. It's a lot less convenient because Parallels and VMware let you switch back and forth between the two environments just by clicking on the screen. They both are running at the same time, whereas Boot Camp, you have to reboot your computer to change operating systems. But
yeah, so you get three choices from Mac.
Yeah,
about boot camp.
Yeah.
So I in this scenario, I pick Mac because of all the consoles and all the almost 99% of the audio systems I've worked with, everything I've have is either Mac only or works on a Mac. And in my personal experience, I've had more blue screens of death, and I know blue screens of death is a PC term, but I've had more on my PCs than I have on my Macs. And in my experience, especially when I'm needing my computer or something, in my experience, this Mac from 2013 has only once in its entire time blue screen to death on me, and that was because its battery was dying. And I've never. Oh, thank you. Someone just telling me to turn up my mic. So I just, for the reliability sake, I'm gonna, when I go to a gig, I'm going to take a Mac because it doesn't. The chances of it crashing are a lot lower. Now I'm not saying it's perfect, but I've just, when I'm doing a live gig, I like my computer that I'm using to be on and not crash on me.
I too like my computer to be on. I feel like that's sort of setting a low bar, but nevertheless, and Scott, you can kind of split the difference on that volume change. Yeah, I can literally rant about this topic for 35 minutes straight, so I'm intentionally staying out of it for the moment.
I think there's 10 of us here that could do that.
That's probably true. I'm curious what Ed Willock thinks, because I know that he's a little more. He's a little bit more open-minded. I am very much on this topic, not even remotely open-minded. So I would love to hear from someone who's a little more open-minded.
So not depends, but both. Absolutely 100%. You should have both. You should be carrying two machines. You should have a Mac and you should have a PC. They both have their place, and that's just what it is. It's just the tools. You need to have both. When you have when you're doing a corporate job and you have corporate clients that bring you things and they want you to use some thing that only works on their Windows enterprise stuff or whatever, you have to have that Windows machine. Because even if you're running Parallels, that doesn't necessarily mean everything's going to work. Yeah, you could do boot camp, but all of our, Intel Macs are going the way of the dinosaur, and pretty soon, we're not going to have that option. So I'm going to say you absolutely have to have both. I have both. I was a diehard Mac person for a number of years until I had to get Windows machines because of the pandemic, and I started doing a bunch of virtual, and now I'm surrounded by 4 PCs and 1 MacBook Pro that's dying a slow death from 2014. So I've got the old Mac, and I literally a couple of days ago, for $200, bought a 2014 Mac Mini that came with a 27-inch monitor, because I want to have an old Intel Mac while I'm waiting for my new M1 MacBook Pro that's going to take 2 months to get here. So you have to have both. I think it's silly to be one or the other. That would be like, you're only going to mix on one console ever. Okay, you're going to throw away a whole lot of work. So
the only reason I
fine.
kept a PC around was there are a few things I need to connect with 232, and the PCs were the only one that had a 232 port on them. Although you can do a USB to 232, but that works on Parallels. I have a little adapter I use.
Right, but like I said, pretty soon it's going to be very hard to run your VMs, and
it's going to be hard until Microsoft opens up Windows for ARM. The software exists. It's very hard to get.
Well,
and if you have Windows for ARM, you just run it under Parallels on an M1 Mac.
Yeah, and I wouldn't be surprised if there may be a certain amount of strategery going on with regards to them letting that cargo ship full of ARM software, Windows in particular, circle around the harbor for a while, since the M1s just came out, so that people will not necessarily buy the nice new spiffy M machine, but maybe they can like stave off I don't know. I have no inside information. I'm sure though that the whole Intel ARM thing is a huge behind the scenes fight, and who knows what all is going on behind the scenes.
I don't know.
Well,
I
you
think
can,
that's
it's right on the way. You can download Windows for ARM right now. If you Google it, it's like an entire page of places to download Windows for ARM.
And none of them, literally none of them, are going to install anything bad on your computer. Just go ahead and hit those links and just hit download, hit all the download links, because you're going to need them all. I'm obviously giving you a hard time.
Exactly. Well, you've got to pay for all the special download software first.
Right. So first you download the download software,
Right.
and then you pay the guy who says, now that you have the download software, I will give you access to the Windows software for only $129.99. And then you get the link to the Windows software, and then a window will come up and say, and now I will let you open it for another $129.99. I will say, I would love, Pete, for you to share with me at some point. This is probably obvious, but where I can get a copy of Windows 10 or whatever for $25, because every time I've ever gone looking for just the operating system, it's either a whole bunch of really obvious, this is going to melt my computer, or it's, oh yeah, retail is $279. And as a Mac guy, the very idea of spending money for an operating system is what? It seems absolutely incomprehensible that I would spend any money of any kind.
I have a
for an
screen to
operating
share
system.
for you if you want to have your Windows 10 for cheap.
Oh, okay. Do I need to give you access?
Yeah.
Is that what I need to do? Okay, hang on.
He also needs
Hey,
your
you
social
pay for
security
your
number.
Mac software right off the top. That's the thing. And you pay a lot of money for it too.
Well, yeah, but I don't see that, and that's all I care about, is that I can pretend that it was just the cost of the computer and be done with it. Okay. Oh, okay. So those look like fairly real places. So all right.
See, PC sales on Russia right there.
I'm sure it's fine.
Password,
What could possibly go wrong?
password PUTEN.
My opinion is that I am a diehard Mac person through and through. Just touching a Windows machine begins to make me break out into hives.
Yeah, it's creepy.
And I will admit that some of it, a large portion of that, is familiarity. When my Mac machine does something stupid, I go, well, that's weird. I guess I need to figure that out and fix that. When my PC does anything remotely strange, I'm just like, freaking Microsoft. Like, I immediately begin to cuss because I just know it's because it's a PC. And I know. I'm fully aware of the fact that that is my bias sneaking in. However, I only currently own one Windows machine. It is a Surface tablet, and I don't know if you can see what it's doing right now, but
The feature.
yeah, I've had it for like less than a year, and that's what the screen has done. It's just
disco mode.
And if I turn it off and let it cool down, then it'll come back and it'll be fine for a little while, and then it will do. I have two 10-year-old Mac Minis in my rack right over there that will just keep going forever till I die. Every old Mac I've had, out of all the Macs that I've owned, I've had one Mac that had the graphics card in it go bad, and it was 11 years old. So I just, the hardware just freaking
That
works.
sounds like
and
a
works
country
and works and
song of
works.
all the Macs I've had.
All the Macs I've had before.
I will say my 2015 13-inch just got to take a trip to Apple because its battery has swollen to the point that my keyboard is a little mountain in the middle of it.
Yeah.
And that's a known thing and totally valid. Like, that's complete crap that they ended up throwing millions of batteries in computers, and they all failed and expanded and broke. I mean, so I'm under no delusion that like Apple and Macs are somehow perfect in every way and that they just work, but they kind of just work most of the time. Like, they just, for me anyway, they kind of just work. Now, I was super annoyed. I bought an M1 Air pretty much when they came out over a year ago. And because Audinate had said, yeah, the virtual sound card will be out in a month.
Any day now.
Real soon
now. And so I had a 2014 MacBook Pro that was, showing its age. It was time. So I bought the new M1, and basically all I've done with it for the last year, and long enough for it to be now out of warranty, thank you very much, is basically surfed Facebook and done Zoom calls. And it's really kind of so yeah, when the virtual sound card finally became available a couple 3 days ago, like, hallelujah. And the machine I'm on right now is a M1 Mac Mini that I just put virtual sound card on 5 minutes before I got on the Zoom call, and I'm gonna run a bunch of junk through it here in the studio for the next couple of weeks and try to break it. But yeah, that was super annoying. And it's not really necessarily an Apple thing, other than just the whole changing to a completely different. And this is, of course, the second time that they've done that. They went from PowerPCs to Intels. I had a PowerPC machine. I remember that whole transition was a pain in the butt. And now we're like doing another transition to another.
If you were a little bit older, Brian, you would known that it's happened 3 times before, because they went from Motorola 6800 series to
I do vaguely know
PowerPC,
that. Yep.
and then PowerPC to Intel, and now Intel to M1.
And if you were a little older than that, Brian, you would have known that they would have switched from wax tablet to stone tablet.
I thought it was the other way, Joe. I thought Stone tablet.
There
was
is a
first.
virtual machine to use your stone on your wax tablet, though.
Yes. Well, the cool thing is that you can get wax on your apples, and if you wash it off, it comes off, so it's fine.
I think Dave Chappelle did a whole bit on that. Wait, it wasn't wax. Never mind.
So Dan, what do you look like you're holding up something for the class? What do you got?
So we're talking about the hardware that just keeps on working. The reason I quit using this is because the software aged out. I hit a max at what I could upgrade it, but you'll remember these Macs they had the black MacBook for 3 years.
Yeah, what model is that?
This is just a MacBook. I would have bought it 2007.
I don't even remember them making a black one. Obviously, I remember all the white ones, but I don't even remember them.
It was only 2 or 3 years.
The black book was a superior product to the white book, but my black book died years ago.
Yeah, the battery at this point is shot, but if I were to plug this thing in, it will fire up.
Yeah, before I got my original titanium Mac.
Oh, I remember those.
Yeah, I had a 1400, which was a terrific computer because everything on it was modular and you could replace anything. And prior to that, I had a MacBook 160, which was black and white with a big trackball in the middle just below the keyboard. That machine rocked. I wish I could have that trackball back.
I had a 17-inch PowerPC G4 machine. I forget what, but it would have been 2007 or 8 or something around that era. And yeah, the Intel changeover happened, and I love what Dan is. I love that we can look at that screen. That makes me super happy. But
it would just be really embarrassing when the file that he last was viewing on it opens up.
Right. Like, oh, oops, forgot about that. same thing. It's like the operating system, basically it just aged out from a software standpoint. And I sold it on eBay because it was perfectly fine, including the battery. Like, it worked great. It was just not going to run. And I remember I sold it for what I thought was a good bit of money, and to the point where I messaged the guy before I sent it to him, and I said, you do understand that this is a like 12, 14-year-old machine, and it's not gonna, like, you can't even like go on YouTube with this. Like, it's really. And he's like, no, I'm going to put Linux on it and it'll be absolutely fantastic because it's such a fantastic piece of hardware. It just needs a lighter operating system. And it was like, he was overjoyed to get this big, beautiful 17-inch, amazing piece of hardware in great condition. I think he paid like $300 for it. And I wouldn't be surprised if the guy's not still running it. Like, totally amazing.
That's the main reason I dropped PCs and went to Mac, was the quality of the hardware. I'd gone through a half a dozen plastic and weird thick PCs from Dell and stuff like that. And then the beautiful little Macs came out, all aluminum and machined and everything. And I said, I like hardware like that. So.
Yeah, I've had my MacBook. I've had it for like going on 10 years now. This thing's been on the road several times. It's been on bumpy ass roads. It's gone to gigs, and yet it still works. And another interesting thing, things age out. Who here remembers the Zune? Microsoft has dropped any support for that. This little thing. You hook it up, even the first gen, you hook it up to your Mac, it recognizes it and you can still use it. And I still use this. I still use this because, like, people are like, well, use your sound check on your phone. First of all, you never know when someone's going to call you on your phone. No one can call me on this. It just, and it takes too long to start.
That's really cool because, if you're using a Yamaha console, there's an icon for that.
It's as we talked about today on the class that Scott and Mac were both on. There is actually the little icon in it for playback is a little
Is it iPod
Classic, which is just kind of awesome. Yeah, I think I let my iPad Classic go just a few years ago. I didn't realize though that they were still completely supported in the operating system. That's actually kind of cool.
It is. And even like I got a mini in the manliest color, pink, because the only challenge, these are a nightmare to open. This is the last gen of iPod. These also are still supported by Mac OS. These are a lot easier. So at some point I'm going to just switch this over because this thing has way too many memories. I don't want to risk breaking it. But the reason I do use this over, again, the phone is I have my sound check playlists. And you go. You don't have to worry about like anything crashing or something. And again, on both Mac PC does that. You can just put your playlist and you can go.
Yeah, I work in the studio at a big bank, and the AV department, the corporate AV department, has half a dozen of those your pink iPods with all the licensed music that they use, because they won't put anything out on any kind of broadcast that requires a license, so they have iPods filled with the music we're allowed to use. And we've just got little iPod stations everywhere there's a console, and you just go to AV and go, give me an iPod. And then there's your music.
And I think that color's magenta, magenta.
Okay, so this episode's going to be, when I put the description in, it's going to be yeah. We talked about Mac versus PCs. Don't send me hate mail. Also, we there's like 17 inside jokes in this, so there you go. I think we've got like 3 live viewers right now, and that is probably all we will ever get on this episode. So enjoy this time together. Did you also? How many people have iPod? Because now Dan's like pull out. Oh yeah, you got a Classic. Oh yeah.
I still have my 30-pin iPad somewhere around here.
My 30-pin iPad just recently died entirely. I'm seeing if this thing will come back to life, but the battery might be too dead.
I have
Yeah.
a crate filled with 30-pin cable if anyone needs any.
Yeah,
And Dan, just so you know, the Nano, with the exception of the last two versions of it, is the hardest to open of all the iPods because Apple, to make it that small, there is no tolerance. Like the perfect example is like, I think it's the 3rd gen Nano. If the battery expands, you can't pull it out without risking actually puncturing the battery. This, while it's a pain to open, once you open it, you're good to go because it has a tolerance to accept any kind of, bulging of the battery. The Nanos didn't.
Well, and that's a topic for another show, which is let's talk about
Right to
user
repair.
service. Yeah, right to repair, but we won't.
Oh, I would love to do a right to repair episode.
Oh my god! Ha, nice, Mac.
this will not boot up. There is no useful battery in this, but it's completely modular, and
You don't have the power supply for it anymore? No power supply?
The battery's just completely shit. I mean, this is from the 90s.
But would it power up if you had the power supply, even if the battery's dead?
I don't know. I don't think I'm going to find out because I'm not going to search far enough for a power supply.
And Mac, it only weighs like 95 pounds, right?
That's a good 4 pounds, 4.5 pounds. And that screen, if it lit up, would be black and white. That's a monochrome screen, but
Black and white, not black and green.
a very colorful trackball.
Yeah, I was going to say that the color scheme of that looks very either pre Steve Jobs or while he was gone Steve Jobs. It just doesn't have a Steve Jobs kind of feel. Now
That is definitely a Steve Jobs machine.
Scott stuck in the chat. Remember the Mac laptop with the handle, which I think it was called the iBook. Am I remembering that right? It came out at the same time as the first iMac, the really colorful, like weird turquoisey blue, like plastic fun. It looked like my first computer. Like they were really cute.
Well, there was also the Apple Newton that I think had a handle that was like the dumbed down computer for students.
Look at all those ports.
Look, it's a sea of ports, none of which will actually go to anything anymore.
How could they fit all those on there? I can't imagine.
There's 2 ADB ports, an HDMI.
Wait, an HDMI?
Well, it looks like
That
that.
can't be right.
No way.
It looks
So
like
it's
Scuzzy?
a monitor. It's a monitor plug that is the right shape for an HDMI, and it's got a monitor symbol next to it.
Could be.
That looks too
it's-
big,
it's-
though.
It's not an HDMI. I remember this. It was like related to SCSI.
It was probably DisplayPort. No, it's got a monitor. It's probably an early DisplayPort.
By monitor, is it 2 lines with a square in between? Because
Yeah.
I don't think that's a monitor port. I think that's a serial port.
for printers or something.
Yeah.
So this is the part of the audio opinion show where we go down memory lane and talk about completely obsolete computer ports on weird, stupid computers that nobody has anymore. Oh, I have completely lost control of the show. That's all I have to say.
And I'm probably too young to know anything about, so.
I will say, was it you, Joe, that said the N word, Newton?
Fig Newton.
Fig Newton. I was one of the unfortunate souls that went all in on the Newton. I was 100% convinced that it was going to be like the answer to my hopes, prayers, and dreams because it was small and lightweight and portable, and I could take it to gigs. I even got the little keyboard, little Foley thing, and whatever. And I spent way more money on that than I actually had to spend at the time. And I still have regrets. That's all I'm going to say is that was a machine that was ahead of its time in that it didn't work.
But do you have it, and does it run Dante now?
I will say, I unfortunately I'm not a hoarder of old electronics, which is kind of because I would actually love to actually still have that stupid thing, even if I could just like go, I hate this. It was actually cool. It just didn't work. It was just like I have really bad handwriting anyway, so it really, really didn't work with my handwriting. And it's just, it was just one of those like, well, this is a cool idea, but we don't actually have the processing power or capability to actually pull it off and make it work.
That's okay. The more successful, but equally non-functional Palm went the same way.
Did it fall on your head and then get shot with an arrow?
No, no.
Yeah, I had a Palm Pilot as well, and now we're all showing our age, and it like Scott and Ed and Joe are kind of like, what are you guys talking about?
I remember Palm Pilots. I'm older than I look.
I had a Palm Pilot.
I framed my Palm Pilot.
Nice.
Yeah, I had a Palm Pilot and
I still have one in use.
an RTA that was based around a Palm Pilot. The original TTI, the heart of it was a Palm Pilot.
Right there.
Okay,
I see one.
I am spotlighting Dan because he just pulled out one and he just said, and I quote, "I have one that's still in use." So you need to talk to us about what it is that you're using your Palm Pilot for.
Like Mac was just saying,
That's the old TTI.
This is the Gen 1 TTI. Was originally ordered as a 1301, but was upgraded to a 2701 before I purchased it. I just recently bought it off of one of the guys at CP.
Yeah, I have the 1301, but I also have a 27. I have a newer one as well.
And I'll tell you what, the battery life on it isn't great, but it still runs. We got to get power to it because I know it's dead right now.
Do you want a new battery for it?
Are they easily replaceable?
Yeah, they are, but they're not easily available. I happen to have a brand new one though.
Yes.
Today on Battery Brokers for Old Gear.
iFixit is where you can also go, but maybe to put this conversation a little bit more towards what you were thinking is a personal rant and annoyance of mine is like why some of the console manufacturers, cough, Midas, will only make a piece of software for one or the other. Like to this day, I'm very not words I can say on television to Midas that with the Pro Editor, unless someone can prove me wrong, I can't on my current version of iOS, I can't use the offline editor. And Midas has dropped support for it.
Well, and that's, I think to steer this slightly back, and thank you for steering this back to audio again, crazy talk. But that has kind of been, and I understand some of the reasons why, but that's been sort of an ongoing problem in our industry, which Clive pointed out, which was, if you're using anything in the Harman world, you have to use Audio Architect. If you're using Audio Architect, you have to use a PC. I oftentimes had to use a PC to edit a ClearCom Eclipse frame, to use the EHX software, which is PC only. There are these certain control applications that are only available on one platform. And then, we've got for more, I don't know, I was going to say more newer, but that's not necessarily even true. The Unity Intercom world, the Unity Connect world, Mac only, QLab, Mac only. These are two, three very, very useful in our industry
Vectorworks
programs.
Except they both make clients that work on any platform. It's just
Right.
the server that needs Mac, right?
Right. And I, this gets into a whole, long discussion. I totally understand. I really understand why the guys at Unity keep their server as Mac only. They're leveraging parts of the core audio software built into the operating system.
The mixing engine, right?
The mix engine is built into the operating system, and literally they are leveraging that to do everything that they're doing. And not only would it be extremely difficult to port over to Windows, it might be impossible. Certainly not worth the trouble. So, you know, I can't remember who it was that said you kind of need to carry both. And I get away with not carrying both because that was Ed. Thank you, Ed. I thought it was you. Because I'm blessed that when I'm honest and when I'm in a situation where I really need system architect for a big JBL rig or a BSS processor is doing something, I probably have a system engineer there that's doing it for me. Because I'm helpless and I need all the help I can get.
Right.
And so, you know, they're basically doing that. What's the Lake? I think Lake stuff is all PC only as well. But again, it's, you know, if there's a Lake processor involved, I'm looking at somebody from the PA company or a system tech or a system guy and going, I don't know how to work that because I'm dumb and I don't know how to do it. So could you please make this sound good for me? Most likely if it was 15 years ago in my career where I had to do all that stuff, I would probably be carrying one of each. I mean, I think Ed's got a point that there are certain things that, as much as Parallels works and all that stuff works, sometimes it's just not worth.
I used to carry two, and it just became too much of a hassle. Number one, it was too much weight to carry around. And number two, the machines were crap. And everything runs on Parallels. I have I'm still using Windows 7, but I have Windows 7 on my Mac, and it runs everything I need to run. I don't use System Architect, but I use IAS. I use Atom software. I AZ Edit. I use Riedel Edit. All of that stuff is Windows only, and it runs fine on my Mac. And plus, I have all of the Mac software that I use to actually run my life, like FileMaker and Vectorworks. And I would probably change my browser from Safari to Firefox, because Firefox, there are a few things that just don't work with Safari, but I have got so many sites saved in Safari that it's too much bother. I'll live with the shortcomings of Safari to not move all of those addresses over to a new browser.
Which you know, you actually point out, I completely admittedly, a huge part of the reason why I will do handstands to not actually have a PC is because I have 15 years at this point of built up experience and knowledge of working with Macs, and everything is easy because I know how to do everything and I have a sea of bookmarks in Safari. I've got a sea of shortcuts, and I know all the right clicks. I know all the, you know, I have a whole bunch of tricks that only work on them, like all this stuff. And then I get a Windows machine, and it's like God forbid I have to plug an Ethernet cable into it and get it to network with something, and I don't know how to, or two of them at once. It's like I don't know how to do this. This is, so there's familiarity definitely becomes, and to be honest with, I think most people, I was surprised we didn't end up with any die-hard. I think Clive was a little bit more of, but die-hard PC people. But the reality is, I think that for most of us, Mike is okay. You notice he just sort of did this. He didn't wave his hand. Wasn't proud of it, but he was willing to admit it.
Yeah.
But I think for a lot of us, it's just, it does become the devil. It's just, when I have issues with my Apple machines, more often than not, I know how to sort my way through it pretty quickly. And I don't with PCs. I had to start down the vMix world when the pandemic hit. That was an unfortunate portion of my life. I will never get back again. And I spent way too much time doing stuff that if I was more familiar with Windows, I could have done in 3 minutes, but that I just couldn't figure out because I just didn't know where to look. I just didn't know where to go. Go ahead, Joe.
Brian, I will say, as someone who is currently in my 5th from final class to get my degree, that it seems to be mostly around understanding how Windows works. I never had to take a college course to operate Mac ever. And I am many credits into a college degree that is focused on teaching people Windows. And granted, it's server level Windows, but still it's Windows, and it's very frustrating.
Yeah, I mean, I think I think there's a lot of validity to that. I remember when the Mac server version of the operating system was the thing, and you could buy and it was like, what's the difference? It's got more stuff.
It's more expensive.
It's more expensive. Yeah, it's like, oh, the server version of the Mac Mini. Why is it, what's it mean? Well, it's got 2 hard drives in it and a more powerful processor. It's like, it was the same, it was the same stuff. There was nothing magic. There was no like, oh, you unlock all this complexity that's so hard to understand. It was like, yeah, it's just a freaking server. It gets messages, it sends them out, it does stuff. Like, I had somebody come to me relatively recently, wanted to do something that I knew would be easy in the cloud, but that I knew I didn't know how to do on a PC. And I knew that the cloud world and virtual machines is a PC thing. And I just handed him off to somebody that understands that world a little bit better, because it's like, I could get you up on Mac Stadium and I could probably make this work, but it would cost a lot more money to probably do the same thing.
An interesting thing I kind of realized in this discussion is, to keep it back in audio, is like a lot of consoles are based on 2 operating systems, Linux or Windows. To my knowledge, there is none of our digital mixing consoles are based in Macintosh.
No, I mean, that's, yeah. Now, I think a big part of that is the it's the philosophy behind that anyway. Mackie stuff and PC stuff, and the guys at Apple just want to pair their stuff up with their hardware, and that's what they want to do with it. They're not super interested in saying, oh, let's just take the kernel of this and stick it in some other piece of hardware that we don't know anything about. Like, it's just.
And so far, it's been a terrible business decision.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen? I mean, I saw pictures of the headquarters at Cupertino. It was like in ruins. Like they're making no money. And I think
it's the biggest square footage office building in the world.
Yeah, there is a legitimate criticism to be made for where do you think they make all that money? And it's on that $4,000 MacBook Pro I want. It's on that $15,000 Mac Mini Studio that I want to put together, or however much money this stupid thing costs.
It's only $8,000. Only $8,000 fully souped. Yeah.
It's less than the middle of the road Mac Pro.
But Brian, you brought up a couple of good points though. Like, you mentioned having to dive into the vMix world, and that's a PC only kind of thing. Even like things like OBS work way better on PC because they can leverage the GPUs differently. And I know we're not, well, I know many of us are not video people, but we're starting to see the video players, the meaning the developers like NDI, starting to dip into the audio, especially networked audio world. So there's going to be more crossover coming, and some of us are going to have to start touching things that show pictures as opposed to make sound waves. So that's where at least having some cursory knowledge of PC is going to be useful, I think, moving forward. If we want to keep working.
I'm just sticking my AES signal out there, and whoever wants it, they can grab my signal. I don't need to touch the video.
AES. Who's touching AES?
AES 67, not 3.
All right. So you're still cool. We still like you.
Well, at least with AES3, you know where the clock is going.
I do also want to point out that Dante now has Dante AV.
Yep.
So we're probably going to have to deal with that soon too.
They have it, but there's like 3 products that use it.
I thought you were going to say there's like 3 people using it, which I think also may be true. But that
may also be true, and they may all 3 be the developers
and their moms.
Don't mishear us, Audnate. If you want to sponsor this show, I will take your money and I will absolutely shill for Dante Via for the next 7 years. But right now, I'm just not seeing a lot of traction in the product. We have managed to spend an hour talking about something that I stuck into the poll as a joke. So I don't know whether to be impressed or annoyed. I don't know how to feel about this. But anyway, I will say no one leveraged Mac Kerr versus PC. I feel like that was a lost opportunity.
I did. That's how I got into the Mac world in the first place.
It's because, I mean, come on, with a name like Mac.
I still have a Mac 128 up in my closet, the one that has all the signatures of the developers molded into the plastic of the case.
That is actually very cool. I will say that I would, if I were you, have gotten super, super, super tired of, you mean a guy named Mac is using a PC? Like I would have just, I don't want to hear that anymore. But anyway, I think our time has come to an end. It was fun, even though it was weird and had almost nothing to do with audio, whatever. This is what I get for letting the participants decide what we're going to talk about. So anyway, with that, I'm going to put us in this view, and I'm going to attempt to roll. I'm going to do it again because I messed it up. It's this one.
That's just your opinion, man.
Yeah. And I'm going to cut this out of something.
Yeah, well, you know, that's like just your opinion, man.